What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Collider interview studio at Fantastic Fest 2023. I'm lucky enough to be right next to Weston Razooli, who made an incredible feature directorial debut, Riddle of Fire. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You've had quite the ride with this one thus far.
Oh, yeah.
I hope you are prepared for this question. This will be the hardest question I ask you all day. Can you give everybody a brief synopsis of your movie, just in case they don't know about it yet?
Sure. Yeah. So Riddle of Fire is, I call it a neo-fairytale. It's a action adventure comedy about 4 little kids in Wyoming who ride dirt bikes and have paintball guns and are sort of like these terrors around the town. They're kind of like goblins, and they're on a little quest to gather the ingredients for a blueberry pie for their sick mother. So it's kind of like Hansel and Gretel, Little Red Riding Hood, but on motorcycles and with paintball guns.
I was thinking that this was a hard film to synopsize and actually give people the feeling of what it was, but I feel like that did a pretty good job.
Thank you.
I also walked out of this movie and immediately wanted to go buy a paintball gun.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's
Kinda.
that's the goal. I really want to make like everything as satisfying as possible, like loading, seeing like loading the guns and like, riding their bikes and like breaking ceramic gnomes and stuff, like satisfaction.
Like I'm sure it comes from the cinematography, but also the sound design too. Like something about the noise of shooting a paintball gun gives you the feel that what's in their hand is in yours as well, and that made me want to walk out the door and do everything
really
they
cool.
do.
Yeah, I'm glad you got that. Yeah.
Very much. All right, so going back to the beginning with this, because again, this is your feature directorial debut. That is a huge deal and should very much be celebrated. So you wake up one morning, you say, I want to make a feature film. What did you think was step one to getting a green light at the time? And now having done it, would you recommend that step to another filmmaker who wants to make their first feature?
The word green light doesn't really apply to me or like this type of movie. I mean, it's as indie as it gets. I mean, it took me a long time to like kind of, I don't know. I completely raised the funds myself, put it together. I mean, it's like, yeah, this is as indie as it gets.
When you are raising the funds for a movie yourself, what's like the first piece of funding or thing that clicked into place that made you think like, this isn't just a dream that I'm whipping up myself, but this is actually going to happen?
Yeah. I guess when there's certain people, bigger people that were like attached to certain film festivals that promised me large amounts of money. Once I had secured like 80%, but so like those were very exciting, I guess, which problems ensued after. But yeah, I don't know, stuff like that. But it was really like piece by piece by piece, and it was a hard, long road. So I don't know if, and then we shot the film for like half the budget. So it's like, it never got fun or easy until like it was accepted.
Until it was done and like you knew it was going to screen for people. I feel like that is the story that a lot of film, whether it's a first feature or not, I feel like that story is often the repeat for every single film you make.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think the next one will be easier. We've already got some like funding and stuff. So
I like hearing that. Yeah, I like hearing that. When you come out the gate so hot and successfully, I feel like you deserve at least that little bit of ease.
Yeah, thank God. It's like, yeah, it's good. Yeah.
Okay, so you directed some shorts and music videos before you made this feature. So can you maybe pinpoint something about those directing experiences that came in handy here, but then also maybe a learning curve that you experienced making your first feature?
Yeah, I mean, any chance you get to shoot anything is great because it's just practicing and practicing. But a lot of those were me learning shooting on film on 16 especially, and that was definitely, and working with my DP that I work with on Riddle, so getting used to like the work relationship and workflow with him and shooting film and that. So learned mostly a lot of that from shooting those things. Learning curve for feature, God, I don't know. It's too many things.
Like everything.
Yeah, but it's
literally everything. You brought up 16, so I'll go there next because I feel like many are encouraged to shoot on digital for a whole wide variety of reasons. So I don't know, can you maybe pinpoint something about shooting on film that maybe would intimidate people, but it's actually very reasonable to do, and you would recommend them try it if that's where their minds are going to best support their story?
Yeah, I would recommend it. Yeah, I mean, it's very it really hones everyone's focus incredibly, because you know how special this medium is and how limited it is and how much you have of it. So everyone's like really, really on their game, and you know, every shot is important and everything. But yeah, also shooting on film though, specifically for my work, as I love to shoot on film because, you know, Riddle of Fire is like a very stylized fairy tale movie, and film is the medium that I feel confident with using to pull off that stylized vibe and to fully like accept this stylized fairy tale world, which I don't think is like totally necessary for drama. I mean, it all depends what you want, but like I think for this genre and this vibe is like film is it really completes it.
From the audience perspective, it felt right. I'm glad you went that route. So I was reading somewhere that pretty much all the scripts you've written are about children or teenagers. So I'm assuming you had a couple of very influential movies in that department that you saw growing up. So maybe what is a movie that you saw and loved that you wanted to emulate because it captured that experience? But also, what is something that you think is missing from those movies that you wanted to make sure yours had?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I loved the Little Rascals growing up, and like the actual like original show, Our Gang from the 20s. Like, there's something really charming about funny kids like beating up mean adults or playing tricks on adults. So they, you know, I loved all that, but I wanted them to kind of have the resources of like Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone, you know, and be like experts, like how much he's an expert, but be like him, but be like scrappier, I guess. And so that's kind of the combination, I would say, that became Riddle of Fire.
I like that vibe. You definitely feel it here. Speaking about your cast, like this movie doesn't work as well as it does unless you find the perfect kids for these lead roles, and they are something else. Did you find that the four of them maybe had a shared quality that signaled to you like they'd be ready to jump in and do this?
Yes, they did have a shared quality. And that quality was they all seemed, speaking of this kind of relates to my last thing I said, but they all had, each of the kids seemed like timeless child actors that could have been equally at home in like a 30s Little Rascals short, 20s, 30s Little Rascals short, or like a 70s Disney live action movie, or 80s or a 90s, you know. So I was like, since they all had that quality, I thought that they would get along and they would be able to do it, which they did.
Speaking of the time, I want to go back to the cast, but you bring up the timeless quality. One thing that I found really interesting in your movie is that it does have a timeless quality where it feels like the story could play out in any decade. But then you also do include cell phones and the opportunity to be able to research on the spot. Did you always know you were going to incorporate that, or did you ever consider removing that?
Yeah, I did, because for a few reasons. One of them was because I wanted to have the optimistic view of like real true fairy tale adventures could still happen today, even with all what we have, if the right people right kids are doing it or whatever. Second of all, it's just easier. I mean, it's a super low budget movie, so I had to set it now, in order to avoid any like
it works very well
issues. Yeah,
I appreciate the idea of making sure that kind of adventure story still feels possible today, because it does feel like we're moving further and further away from that being a reality now.
Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, it happens. If I'm from Utah, and like there's so many little towns where you'd see little moto kids riding around, like little kids like going around with bow and arrows and stuff. And
all I can picture is my niece and nephew like sitting like this with an iPad in front of their face all the time.
It scares me. It scares me so much.
I mean, if they wind up getting creative with the devices, maybe I'll feel really good about that. But it's not the same anymore. To highlight your four leads here even further, can you maybe tell me something about each of them that made them a standout actor, and maybe even called for something different from you as an actor's director?
Yes. Okay. So let's see. Each of them. So yeah, Jodie, Skyler Peters, who plays Jodie. When I cast him, I didn't realize how hard he would be to understand. So I had to, the first day of shooting, I didn't know what we were going to do. And then I had to decide to subtitle him, which would, made it, I was like, oh yeah, it solves the problem. It makes it funnier. And it's funnier because he's the most eloquent one of the gang. And then he was the one that wanted to add more lines. And so he would ask me like, or his mom would ask me like, hey, is it okay if like he wants to say like, when they have the crab legs, or the other kids want to pray, like leave the crab legs, and with the villains, he wanted to say, I'm not leaving without these babies. And I was like, yeah, sure, you can say that. Hazel, Charlie Stover, he like seemed like the epitome classic American kid, like Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn. So yeah, he fit right in. Phoebe Farro Alice is like, she just had this like really angsty like little kid energy, sort of like Tatum O'Neal in Paper Moon, or the girl from Zazie dans le Metro, who those were the kind of influence to her character. And then Lorelei Olivia Mote, who plays Petal, is like, she had the funniest audition tape where she was just like hopping around chairs being a little fairy, and she was just so funny and like so charming. And she was great. They're all great. Yeah. And they were the only kids that got callbacks. Like they were the only kids that I was like, maybe they can work. And it was like, yeah.
Oh, I love that. They're really something else in this. So you bring up the subtitling for Jodie, and I was reading that you had a couple of other like issues in the edit that you had to cut around. Can you maybe name a couple of them and tell us how you wound up cutting around them? Yeah,
so editing this movie was like truly a challenge because no take was clean, right? So it was kind of a Tetris game of, you know, what can cut with what, like the wide shot can cut with this, you know, this two shot into this close up, and how do I get out of that? Because, you know, cutting from the wide into the close up, I can't cut back to the wide because like the continuity doesn't mix because they're facing the other way or something. And it was like I don't know, every scene just took like, I don't know, a couple weeks at least to edit. Like every scene. One scene took me a month to edit.
Which scene is that?
It was the trailhead scene when they're the trailhead when they hotwire the car. When they like get right, it's a sort of a longer scene. There's like, it just, that was the final thing we shot. It was the final day. Everyone was so tired. The kids were so tired. And it was hell. Yeah, so that took forever to edit.
For what it's worth, the edit feels so fluid and natural to me, which is hugely impressive. And when you bring up the thing with subtitling Jodie, that feels like the perfect example to me of something where like maybe it doesn't go as planned, but it actually adds unexpected magic that makes the movie even stronger.
Yeah, I mean, that's filmmaking, you know, that especially shooting a feature, it's like you got to roll with it. You got to make it work. The opening heist was not supposed to be inside. They were actually supposed to be robbing a delivery truck that was like showing up with the Otomo boxes, and the delivery driver was like moving them, and they were going to go in the truck and get them. But there was a thunderstorm. And so we couldn't shoot. And it was like, well, there is like this sick warehouse in there. Like, I was like, yeah, they can go in, like, it could be a sick, huge heist. It's even, and it was way cooler. It was like way better.
It looks cooler too, because you use certain techniques that I feel like the greatest, biggest budgeted spy movies use so that they get this game. I love that quality. Yeah. I was reading a little bit about a point system you had for the kids.
Yeah.
I want to know which of the actors got the most points and who got the least points.
Yeah, Jodie, he got the least. He like didn't care. Or he would like start losing and he didn't care. But Charlie Stover, the Hazel, he definitely he got the most points. He was like on it. Yeah. But yeah, that was basically like the point system was to like to have them reset the fat after cutting, like, because they, you know, when I call cut, they would all like want to run away and like look at the camera, like look at and other things. But so if whoever reset the quickest would get a point, and then at the end of the day they would get a prize, and it was usually a prop from that day.
I feel like when I see a movie like this with so many key performances from kids, I think back to film school, where like one of the big things they tell you is never make a movie with kids and don't make them with animals either. Yeah. Having so successfully directed a group of very young actors, like what piece of advice would you give another filmmaker who wants to make a movie with kids but is afraid because they heard things like that?
I would suggest writing something that is on the lighter side and that is fun and action based. There's, you know, because kids, I think it's a lot easier, I mean, maybe, I don't know, to direct a sort of more fun action-based comedy movie rather than like a dark drama with children. That would be pretty tricky, I think.
They seem to be having so much fun I loved looking at your can photos. The group photos are way more exciting and like, I don't know, it feels like more heartfelt than the standard ones we get. Yeah,
they had a blast. We had a blast. I mean, it was a first time for everybody, you know, like first festival, first film, first can, like, yeah, it was everyone was really, really excited. and happy, and they were having so much fun. Yeah.
Big question, but because you said you're already moving forward with your next feature, and I love asking this because I'm a big believer that nobody in this business says good job to themselves nearly enough. We say it to other people, and that is wonderful, but can you pinpoint maybe something specific you accomplished on this movie that you could look back on and say, damn, like I'm proud I pulled that off, and it'll give you confidence on your next film?
Yeah, I mean, I am very proud of this movie given the resources that I had to make it. I mean, it was a very, very tiny budget and a mini amount of shoot days. And yeah, as you said, kids, and it's like SAG, so it was like, you know, you get 8 hours a day, but that means really 6 hours. And for the success that this movie has had, I'm like, it's a miracle almost, and I'm proud of it.
As you should be. For the multitude of films out there that think they need money, money, money to be able to bring their vision to screen, can you give us an example of a technique you used with very little that maybe more production should consider?
Taxidermied elk head. I don't know. For the Prince of the Mountain, that was like, we had, you know, I mean, for a sec, we're like, do we do a CGI elk? And like, that's not really in the cards. So it was a taxidermied elk head that I was puppeteering. I mean, it's kind of funny, but it like fits the aesthetic of the movie.
I was going to say, I don't know how many movies that would actually help, but now that I'm thinking about what I've seen here, I mean, kind of would.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, what else? Could be another few things, but I don't know. Yeah.
So I'm going to flip around the proud of question that I just asked you, because you have been on the festival circuit with this film. And like, that's one of the best things about film festivals is bringing your own film there, but also getting to see others and being able to meet and support other filmmakers. So during this film's festival run, can you pinpoint maybe something you saw another filmmaker do in their movie that made you go like, damn, that is something else. And it inspires me that I saw that.
Oh God. You know, I feel kind of bad, but I haven't really seen any movies. The only one I saw I saw two at Cannes other movies, and one of them was Maïwenne's movie with Johnny Depp, Jean du Barry, which it looked super beautiful. I'll say it was very beautiful. It made me very much want to do a Victorian period piece.
What about any people you've met along the way?
Yeah, I met Almodovar.
That was pretty cool.
And I met Jim Jarmusch on the red carpet. But yeah, Almodovar, he was so nice, and he's like my hero. I mean, you know, he's probably my favorite living live action film director. And yeah, he remembered my name like later, and I showed him my Cahiers du Cinema cover, and he was like, it was like really, really cool.
Those are the memories that matter, and really Riddle of Fire is excellent, so I have a feeling you're going to have a lot more of those encounters on the horizon. Huge congratulations on your film.
Thank you so much. Thank you to Collider.